Welcome. You're watching Kaleidoscope Srilanka Live News Capsule.
With the enactment of the US executive order on reciprocal tariffs, Sri Lanka now faces a 44% tariff on all goods exported to the US. A delegation has been to the US to negotiate on what could be quite challenging times ahead. In this light, Sri Lanka needs to shift focus as well. How do we mitigate the fallout? How do we leverage what we have? And how do we adjust our trade orientation? Evening scholar and trade policy enthusiast Michael Jayawardana has some insights to share. Are we missing the point when it comes to the US tariffs?
A lot of people think this is some kind of sanction, some kind of penalty on Sri Lanka. Actually, it's not the case. So, this is a global rollout of what President Trump calls as reciprocal tariffs. So, he has a very basic formula where he looks at the trade balance, and if you fall within the trade balance and if it's skewed towards us in a sort of a positive manner, then we fall into that category. So, you could be any country in the world, and we unfortunately got caught with 44% due to the apparel industry and some of the other industries that they have, in terms of exporting to the US. So this is definitely not a sanction, but I think it's more or less an opportunity for us to recalibrate, if you ask me.
What are the lessons learned?
I have 3 points on that, and if we can, come up with a framework on these 3 points, I think Sri Lanka can make this a win-win situation. First, I think, is the immediate diplomatic engagement. I think which we are doing right now. You go there, you speak to them and see what can be negotiated on. Second is to provide them data on what kind of products we are sending to the US and what kind of American inputs are in those products that we are sending. So a data-driven approach is important. It's not only apparel. Sri Lanka also imports a number of other US origin products, but they don't come from the US. It could be from India, Vietnam, many other countries. It could be iPhones, it could be many other products. So I think holistically we need to show the US, in addition to apparel, which has certain amount of US inputs, there are many other products which are from US origin companies, but which comes to Sri Lanka through other countries. So then a data-driven approach is important as the second step. Third step is long-term engagement. You come up with a platform where US becomes your friend, like you said, in terms of looking at Sri Lanka as more of a long-term trade partner, right? It could be on ethical manufacturing. It could be on many other grounds where Sri Lanka plays a part in exporting to the countries in the region, maybe even US-made products. So how do we come into that platform, and how do we negotiate certain trade deals? So for example, if you take India, they're working on a zero tariff mechanism for cotton, and Sri Lanka being a apparel manufacturing country could piggyback on that. So there are certain platforms you need to look at in the long term and recalibrate our trade networks and what we offer. So if you look at these 3 steps in the next 5 to 6 years, I think we are good to go.
What are we doing right now?
Certain countries like Vietnam and Cambodia have offered zero or close to zero tariffs. So even if Sri Lanka offers zero tariffs, still based on the flat 10%, I think my approximation is maybe 10 to 15%. There will be some type of tax on us, even if you have a 0%. So I think we shouldn't just offer the 0%. I think we should offer maybe a certain percentage plus how we can work with the US in terms of giving them visibility on what we can do. So I think we are on the right track right now, but we need to build on it and make the negotiations as simple as possible.
The deficit is large. Is there any way that we can sort of narrow it down?
A lot of people think, how can US expect countries like Sri Lanka, which has such a massive deficit, to narrow it down, right? Trump's objective is to make it zero, but you can't do it. So this is a negotiation tactic by Trump. He puts out the most difficult objective out first, hoping the countries will come to him for negotiations, which actually is what has happened, right? So I don't think there's a real expectation to make or really narrow the deficit, which we can't do. But I think he wants some kind of commitment and some kind of fair play in terms of trade. So that's the objective here.
Are we going to be seeing fair play?
Certain countries like Sri Lanka who have made, apparel very affordable to the US consumer market. I think President Trump's team is possibly aware about Sri Lanka, Vietnam, and all these other countries like Bangladesh who support apparel manufacturing. So he is now looking at, in the short term, looking at a scenario where inflation is going to definitely rise in the US from it could be with regard to a number of products, and apparel being a basic requirement in the US, and if this really goes up in price, I think he will look at Sri Lanka favorably.
Did you know Kaleidoscope is on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn? Remember to subscribe, follow, and like us for more.
You focus on your goals. We will take care of the risks. Srilanka Life.